Hello, my art friends. This is Cindy Kromholtz. Today I want to do a little watercoloring project with you. If you'd like to follow along with this, I would be happy to mail this to you. All you have to do is make a comment on my YouTube channel on this video and say something like, I'd like to do that, or something real simple like that. And I'll figure out a way that I can get your address, and I'll just mail this to you in an envelope, a standard envelope. Well, I should say a business size, so I can just fold it into threes. Then when you get it at home, just open it up and put a heavy book on it, or you can gently iron it. Maybe put some piece of cloth in between the iron and the paper. Just do it real gently and do it on the back side. So I thought this would be kind of a fun project, and I almost always use a fine and an ultra fine black Sharpie for areas like right here. You can see it didn't quite fill in so good. So, well, there could be areas that come up. So anyway, yeah, I know I want to do a little line right here because the way, I forgot that when you lay it on your, when I was making this piece of paper, I forgot that it cuts off, just standard copying. You get about I think it's about an eighth of an inch all the way around. So I forgot all about that when I was laying this out, when I made this piece of paper with a bunch of things I had. I haven't watercolored a lot, and I'm certainly no expert, probably not even very knowledgeable, but I know I like it, and it's really fun to see how it comes together and all these puddling things that make this beautiful mottled looking finished project. So this is what we're using today. I wanted to try this. These are I just got these at my local grocery store. You probably can get them at the dollar store too. This is just a generic brand of watercolor. There's 8 colors in it and a brush, and I thought this brush would be pretty lousy, but it's actually not too bad, which surprised me, I have to say. So, yeah, let's get started with this. Oh, I forgot I need a little tray to do my little puddling. I like to take the color. Now, I have to say the difference between good watercolors and not so good ones probably is always how pigmented they are. So these are not very pigmented, but still you can see there's a fair amount of color there, and I'm going to water that down even a little more. I like to start slow and build the puddles and you can go over and over it once it dries. You do have to let it dry or it will just sort of break, because paper, when it gets wet, it loses its, I don't know what that word is, like the strength of the paper. It breaks the fibers. Decoupage or any kind of wetness. So we'll just start with that. You can already see that there's a little area here where I went across the first time. I had probably a little more paint on this, and it's a little darker than this. So it'll be really interesting. I'm going to add a little of this red color in a few places. You want to do uneven numbers, and I'm going to do 3 to 5 different little places here to, just add some more color in. So 1, 2, Let's see, I think up here would be kind of good. It's not, you know, very specific. So now we have 3. Maybe I'll just go with that for right now. Now I also want to take this red and see if I can get a fairly intense, which this is pretty light pigment, so I don't know. But this heart is orange and I would like it to be more red and a little bit fatter. So I'm just going to add some in, and I might have to go back with another layer. I also want to add some on this little, this is either supposed to be a flower or a fruit. I'm not sure. I don't care, it doesn't matter to me. All right, let's see here. Well, this is already dry, I can see, so I think I'll use the color I have in my brush. Let's see what happens. Second go around. I'm really going to have this be very watery, and we'll just let that dry and see how we end up there. Let's see here. So I decided that I was going to just paint this whole cup, except for the inside, yellow, and then I'm going to go back over it with some purple. And this cup I'm going to paint orange and go back over it with you know, a pretty unwatered blue for the dots. And probably the cup handles, I'll probably do purple and blue. Well, that's my plan right now. Now, a funny thing when you're using this type of watercolor, because they're so darned unpigmented, my yellow is just about gone and everything else is barely touched. So it's a funny thing. Now this is just going to be almost what I would say is a wash. I just want to get that background a little bit colored, and then I'll just let that dry and I'll go over the top of it with purple on the scroll and some different things. So this isn't going to be, this is so detailed, the 2 cups, those won't really be the watered out thing I'm looking for, but that's all right too. We'll have plenty of spots. I think I'll do this orange next. Same thing, water it way out. It's just going to add just a touch of color, really. And I don't think it will interfere at all with adding the dark blue on the dots, as long as it's dried. If you didn't let it dry, then it would sort of puddle together and you'd probably end up with brown, actually. That almost looks like brown anyway. Maybe I need just a little more color there, maybe. Oh, there we go. That's a little better. Sometimes that's what happens. I'm going to paint this band in a pretty solid orange. All right, well that should be good enough for that. And we'll let those dry. I'm going to do a little bit of brown right now. I want to do a few things with the brown. I want to do the bird's wings. Start with the brown. I'll be adding some other colors in later, but this is what I call my very first coat of watercolor. It's just getting it on there a little bit. I also want to put a little bit on this, the head. I don't really want it to look black, but it's probably going to mostly look black still anyway. But maybe this will break this paper down a little bit and help that out. Now I'm going to dip it in the brush again, in the water again, I mean. And I'm going to pull this brownish color down a little from this piece of paper I had. It's a piece of tissue paper that I used on this. And just sort of going to pull it down to the bird a little bit. And then I'll add a little more color in to break it up a little bit, but kind of just like that. Now I want to make what looks like a coffee ring here, because this is all about coffee and kind of like watching their birds sing, right? So I'm going to make kind of a dark little area here. I'm going to see if this will work. I don't really know if it will or not, but I want to try it. So try to get enough paint. It's really hard to get very much paint out of these to make a big area. You know, it's not like acrylic where you have all this paint, which has a different thing to it. So what I want to do is I want to get this paper really wet. And then I want to try to kind of run this little yogurt cup around. Oops, that's not really big enough. Well, maybe we'll get 2 little coffee rings here. Yeah, that worked out. Yeah, I like it. And I can add a little bit more of this brown to this even to exaggerate it. But I like the, right here and here, it kind of is all not straight because of the amount of water that was on there. That's really good. You have to be so careful though. If you get your paper too wet, it peels and it can tear really easily. So you do have to be careful. I think I'll go back to the orange. See if I can get a really dark orange for this little band here. I'm going to let that dry and I might put a second coat on it. Also want to do the orange. I want to do a really heavy coat of paint as I can get with this. And just sort of going to dot it on so it's really thick and heavy on this beak. And I'll just let that dry and hopefully I'll have a nice orange. I'm also going to put the orange on the bird's, gee, I don't know if you call these feet or claws. Can't think of the right word, but you know what I'm talking about. And, okay, I like that. And back over this with this paint I have left over. That's pretty good. Maybe I'll just water it out a little bit here. Just using up kind of what's left, shadow type of a thing. Okay, let's see here. Let's start on the blue. Now, I want a little bit of this blue watered out a little because I want to use it on the bird, whatever this area of the bird is. Let's see if I can get, oh, that's pretty dark still. Let's see, I think I'll just add some funny little areas in this blue paper that's on here. And then I'll water this brush down a little bit more. Let's see, there we go. Just want to start with a light amount. Sometimes you need a little tissue too to blot it off. So I think I'll do that on there. There we go. All right, now I'm going to try to just use pretty much full strength paint where I'm just getting enough water so it'll move around. And let's see what happens here. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for. it's really surprising how decent this brush is. You can see these dots are very small. And my experience with the brush you get in these kind of paints is really kind of a clunky brush, kind of a big, uneven, really difficult to paint anything with any kind of precision, maybe is the word I want. So I'm really happy with that. And even though, well, I love turquoise colors and teal colors. That and red together, that's probably my favorite art combination to do. But this is quite a pretty blue, actually. You're going to see it in quite a few different hues just by using different amounts of water on this project. So it's kind of encouraging that you'll have a pretty blue, and you can do a lot with it depending on what you want to do. Now, if you already watercolor, and I know a lot of you do, and I'm sure you are gazillion times more knowledgeable than I am if you already do it. Well, just have pity on me. I've probably done about 50 watercoloring things. I still really don't, I've never had a class, so I don't really know what anything's exactly the correct description for what it's called for some technique I'm doing or something like that. But I guess what I'd say is if you're new to it, the good news is you don't have to know those kind of things to still enjoy it and play with it. And if I'm sending you this paper free, then really you're only probably spending a couple dollars, and maybe you already have a Sharpie, or maybe you'll just decide not to use one. You don't have to. So, you know, you could just be spending a couple bucks or a few dollars on supplies, and you could have some fun. And if you like it, there's lots of things going forward. I will probably be doing some more. I know I'll be doing some ladies' faces because I've had I teach art classes in my house, and some of my art ladies have asked me to do this. And since we can't get together right now, thought this would be fun. I actually bought these paints in January. I was going to do this because I had some people asking me to do YouTube art classes. So I've done a few. I'm really small on YouTube. I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I think this will be my 4th or 5th project that is something I can send you, and you can follow along at home, and I think you could make it work. And if you need a little help, you can always call me or something like that, or we can talk somehow. And so that's been really fun to send people materials and have them watch the class and be able to make it and enjoy themselves and learn a little bit on the way too. I really miss my art ladies, and I will be very glad when we can have classes again. But if people like this, I will probably continue to do it every so often anyway. A lot of classes it won't work out because I have a stencil, or maybe I have certain colored paints that you wouldn't have, or papers, too much to send out, something like that, I don't know. But anyway, this has been pretty fun. I did send out, if you look look at my YouTube, you'll see a Valentine's Day project I did where I used a cereal box, and I used these really cool Tim Holtz metal legs and a whole bunch of metal things and other papers. Lots of different papers. So I had a couple ladies have me mail those out, even though it was $10 shipping, but they said they were fine with that. So that was really fun for me to do and to see how that went for them. Okay, I'm pretty much done with this blue. So I think I will just water it out, and I'll put it on the paper in some areas just to get some more blue spread around. Maybe a little bit over here. And when you do this, you do not want to make rectangles, or you could do circles, I guess. That would be perfectly fine. But you basically want to make it pretty uneven. And it just sort of blends in and adds a little something. So that's what you're going for. I want to go back on that bird's, I don't know, I'm going to call it a yolk, but I don't think that's right. Wish I could think of what that might be called. Now, when you see this beading up on here, it's because when it prints, the ink itself creates sort of a waxy-ish product, what would you call it? A waxy, it makes the paper kind of waxy. I can't think of what it would be. And it's just from the inks in the printer. But you can see once the paper breaks down a little bit, it soaks in. I'm going to add a little more blue back in here to try to get some mottled look. I'm just going to let that dry. Oh, I forgot, I actually want to do the insides of these cups, blue and purple. So I need to do this up here also. How are all you ladies doing today? I hope you're having a nice day. It's nice and sunny here today and pretty out. And the trees are blooming out, and my crabapple tree is really pretty. It has blossoms all over it. And lilacs are starting to get some nice big buds on them, so I know they're getting ready. My bleeding heart's blooming. Oh, I love spring. Even though I don't love winter, I know we have to have winter in order to get spring. So one of those things, that's the way it kind of works in nature, right? Let's see here. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, that works. Oh, let's try a little bit more because I think this is even more pigmented. So this is what you do. You start building up your colors and you leave these beautiful puddly things. And when they dry, they get a sort of like a coffee ring type thing if you've ever set your coffee on maybe a magazine or a piece of paper or something, and then it gets it dries all. Well, it certainly doesn't look like a solid ring. So that's what we're going for in this project, and I just love how you can keep adding and adding, and it just all gives you different looks. It's just the coolest thing. if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd really appreciate it. I'm trying to grow my channel. I don't care if it gets huge, but I'm very small right now, and I mostly would like to try to just help some people by showing them what I've learned about art, whatever part of art it is. I mostly do mixed media, which I really love. And I do all kinds of different things with that. You can always go onto my art page on Facebook if you want. Make a little white dot for the eye here. You can get these just about anywhere too. It's a white paint pen Sharpie. These are really handy to have too. You can mix them with these watercolors and get some really pretty effects also. Well, I'm going to start on my purple. I think I'll color the little stripes in first. If you want, in your comment, I'd love to know where you're from, or maybe what kind of art you like or do, or all those kinds of things. Do you do art at all? What would you like to see? Is there some particular type of art you'd like to learn about? If I could help you out with that, I would. I don't know. I'll tell you straight up, I'm not anything like a fine artist. Like I said, I love to do mixed media. I love to do napkins and color book pages together, and all kinds of different things like that. You could look on my art page, like I said, on Facebook if you wanted to, and that'll show you a lot of, well, you can probably see every class I've ever done. I've been doing it for about 5.5 years now, I believe is, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's about right. It's really wonderful being able to teach some other people how to do what I love to do. One of the things I did is I have an Altered Book of the Month club, so for the ladies that are kind of too full on their walls, I get that. I can't put everything up either that I make. Probably drive my husband crazy if I did that. But it's fun to have this big book that we play in, and I always give them the option if they want to do the book or a board. I like to use cement board as my, I guess you'd call it substrate, maybe, or, and well, anyway, it gives them choices, and they can still come over for a little while if they want to and just enjoy themselves. Not have to think about all the things that drive us crazy, you know. We're all in the same boat, I think. We all have difficulties in our lives, right? Art is one of the ways I cope with my difficulties in my life. I know a lot of people like that. It helps them a little bit. Well, there's a little oops. Part of the brush kind of widened out and drug there. That can happen sometimes. If I were really worried about it, I could actually just turn it into another little, maybe I'll just fatten it out and I'll show you what I mean. I'll just make that another little part of the squiggle, or whatever you'd call this little, I don't know what to call this design on this cup. What would you call this, ladies? Let me know. Is there a name for it? To me, it's like doodling, sort of. But maybe there's an actual name. If you're using one of these brushes, one thing I want to tell you is don't push down on it very hard. I'm just kind of brushing it across the paper. So remember that. Just keep that in the back of your mind. A little of that in there. Oh, look at how that mixes. Cool. I love how you get these different looks and these different blotchy looks. Oh, I just love, absolutely love it. It's pretty hard to achieve this with anything else I've tried. Other than I've used markers and things where you, excuse me, you can kind of do the same thing with them. But it's a little different also. Well, let's see here. I want to take some, try and get some really deep red to do on the rest of the bird at this point. Let's see what happens. So I dipped it in the water once after I got the paint on it. It's still not very, you can, it almost looks pink because it's just not very pigmented paint. Oh well, it'll be what it'll be. I'm okay with it either way. I just like all these blotchy variations. I find it fascinating. I need to go over the orange again. That is the strangest thing, that orange on the beak. It just almost disappeared. How strange. Let's see if this helps. Boy. The cheap paints like this, sometimes they're a little waxy also compared to the nicer paints. I want to show you another little thing. I'm going to water way down some yellow. And I'm just going to really loosely put it over this whole thing. It's going to fill in any little gap I missed with blue or purple, and it's going to add a blotchy, different thing to it. So we'll let those dry and see what happens with those. That'll be fun. Well, let me see. My orange on that beak just does not want to stay in. If I wasn't trying to show this to you, I would probably just use an orange Sharpie on the beak because it was kind of black to start with. So if you have an orange Sharpie, or even, I don't know, if you had some acrylic paint or something, you could use that and it wouldn't keep giving you this problem I'm having. But I can see why this is difficult since it's black kind of underneath, and it's just a little bit tough there. Funny how it goes sometimes. All right, well, let's see. I wanted to put some really concentrated blue in the eye and black. Okay. Maybe I'll just, I see I got some water dripping down there. Maybe I'll let that drip down. Maybe I'll just Add a few more petals in here. So cool how that comes out. I'm so excited to hear what you think. That's actually part of the fun of doing this, is get feedback and see what you think. I'm going to put a little blue across the very top of the head of the bird. Not sure it'll show up, but we'll see. Now I also want to take a little fairly intense purple and put it on these wings to give them a little bit of, there's a little orange on them, there's a little brown. I don't want it to be solid, I'm just sort of dotting it in. That's what I call it. I'm not really sure if there's a technical term for it. But just to give it some movement. I always feel like bird wings have a lot of variable colors in them, at least when I see them. At my house, that's how they look to me. Well, it's a pretty weird color combination. Oh, well. Who knows? There might be a coffee cup with these colors on it, right? I'm literally just dotting this on from the end of my brush. I feel like my red has turned into a strange coral color instead of red. I don't know what's going on with it. But like I said, these are really cheap watercolor paints and they're not very pigmented. Well, that looks pretty cute. Maybe I'll just add a little bit more of this into here. Let it puddle. All right, I'm going to take my black Sharpie now and I'm gonna make a little black in the eye, and I want to go around the beak. I'm hoping that'll emphasize the orange. Boy, that's really tough, I gotta say. You can take this little thing here and you could put whatever you want in there. You could say coffee, all kinds of things. One thing I want to do is, I had a little bleed out right here. I'm just going to go around that and make it look like that was supposed to be that big. And also, remember this little spot with the purple? Just going to draw around it with my Sharpie, and it kind of looks like it fits in there. Maybe it's not a perfect thing, but it's okay. The other thing that happened when I printed my paper, copied it, I should say, this T went up a little higher, but like I said, I forgot about the part that you lose a little bit on every edge. So we lost a little bit of this T for sweet. So I am just going to take my ultrafine black Sharpie and really just follow this, which is great. It just gives it another dimension also. And I'm going to try to make this T look a little more. There we go. I'm also going to go around these and kind of do this. I guess they're going to be flowers. Oh, I forgot I wanted to add a leaf here, so I'm going to kind of add a leaf here too. And I'll come back and color that in. And then to go around my heart. Okay. Get a little bit of green on there. Probably don't need much. Yeah, that'll come out good. All right, now on the bird, right on what I'm calling the yolk, which I don't, like I said, I don't know if that's really what it is. I don't like that being quite as dotty as it is. So I'm going to add a little just water in and see if it'll change its shape a little bit. If not, I'll add a little more paint. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if you can see the red on here. It's really turned into a weird color. You would think I had white paint mixed in there, and I don't. And it was very dark when I first was using it. So that's just really strange to me, but that's all right. I'm going to just color along the very edge, the breast, and I'm going to feather it out a little bit and connect these things up a little bit and catch anywhere I missed. I kind of went out of the line here a little bit too with some brown. I'm just going to draw that back in like it's a feather. I'll just add some little lines just like that has. So you can see there's lots you can do. It's kind of fun to do all these little things. I'm going to add one little white dot to this, hopefully. I can get a really small one. This is a medium-sized Sharpie. It's not what I would choose to use. I would use a smaller one, but sometimes those are hard to find. And I'm trying to give you something easy to find. So anywhere you see where you might have some color that bled out a little bit, just go around it with your Sharpie. You want your page to be dry before you do that, though. Otherwise it will eat your Sharpies. And it really will. Any pen you would use, it will just ruin it. So you have to be really very careful with that. Now you know the one little spot here where I put a little white dot. Let's see if that helps that. All right, well, I like it. I don't know. I don't know if you'll like it. I hope you'll like it. I hope you'll try it. I'd love to send this to you. And just something I wanted to do to give back a little bit in these times we're having right now. As I said, I'm no expert on this at all. So please bear with me a little bit. I just know what I like. I like this puddly looking thing. So if you like a more precise thing, you certainly could do that too. I'm just adding a little more yellow in here. My paper was more yellow, but my copier didn't really show that so much. So here we go. I'll turn it around so you can see it. There you go. I think you can see it. From what I could see, you could see it. Sweet moments. They're coming. They're coming. Hang in there, everybody. Stay safe. Be well. I hope you want to try this and just let me know. Well, thanks again. Bye-bye.